Hello and welcome to Cleveland Classic Cinema. Tonight's film is 1962's Invasion of the Star Creatures, directed by Bruno Vesota.
Look at those great, big, beautiful babes.
We're here on your Earth as a scientific investigating team.
Hey, baby, you're really out of this world.
As scientists, these girls are way ahead of us. For instance, in the raising of Vegamen, gigantic, man-like robots with fantastic strength. And the things the girls don't know, they're willing to learn.
Let me take you away from all this, my chérie.
Haven't you ever heard of love? Show me.
The gags and laughs come fast and furious in this fun-filled battle of the sexes.
One of us ought to go back and warn the Colonel.
You don't think he's gonna believe the story about galaxy gals and guys growing in flower pots?
If you would, in the interest of science, you understand, kiss an Earthman.
Stand by for a charge, baby.
I feel a lot like I did when we showed Bela Lugosi Meets a Brooklyn Gorilla. If you've ever seen that episode, after the trailer I gave a little sigh groan of a man about to pick up an extremely heavy load that he really didn't want to carry. That's not exactly how I feel about this movie. What I dread is the reaction you guys are going to have after watching it. In spite of all the crap I broadcast on this show, the reactions I've received from viewers has been incredibly 100% positive. As grateful as I am for this, at times I find it hard to believe. I mean, there are some movies, The Monster Walks, Last Woman on Earth, and Maniac are just a few that leap to mind, that are so awful, so mind-numbing, and so insulting to the intelligence that actually enjoying them, even in a so bad it's good frame of mind, pushes credulity to the breaking point. To be fair, I've never had anyone walk up to me and thank me for showing movies of that ilk, so I choose to believe that the viewers I do meet are simply too polite to take a swing at me for wasting their time with such junk. Then again, I've had several tell me that they just went to bed after hearing about how awful the movie we were showing was in the intro. Nonetheless, there is a substantial portion of my viewing audience that actually stays up to watch the movie all the way through. Now, I don't know if this is out of morbid curiosity and nostalgic urge to watch a movie they haven't seen in decades and have fond memories of, or if, God forbid, they're actually fans of said movie. I like to believe that the viewers who watch our presentations from beginning to end are simply fans of Drek, just like I am, and stick around to see just how horrendously the creative process can be perverted. But there's another side to that seemingly two-headed coin that I must take into account, and that side is that there are viewers who enjoy these films. The independently made ones, that is, simply because they were made by people with no access to the talent and resources of a major studio. People who are possessed of a creative urge so strong that they just said, screw the studios, we'll make this ourselves. And did it, no matter how badly the odds of success were stacked against them. People who scraped and saved and got equipment and filmed by hook or crook. People who spent all of the cash they could afford to spend and used all of the free time they had, and by sheer strength of will and determination, created a movie, pushed it through to completion, and managed to land a distribution deal to get in the theaters. You have to understand that creating a movie, any movie, much less a zero-budget independent movie, is truly a labor of love and commitment. It's nearly impossible now, even with all the technology that exists today, to get that done. Think about what it was like when all that technology that was available to you was mechanical instead of electronic. Laying your hands on cameras that you couldn't walk into Best Buy and purchase, buying film stock, getting it developed, editing it on rented equipment, syncing the sound, running off prints, and then shopping it around, hoping against hope that someone would offer a distribution deal. It must have been horrendously difficult, but these independent filmmakers pulled it off, and I admire them for that. Of course, that doesn't mean the movies they made didn't suck. Back then, the notion that I could make a better movie than that was very much alive and kicking, and it was just as untrue then as it is now. You really do have to possess, at the very least, a modicum of talent and technical knowledge to produce anything that won't get you lynched when it's shown. The Pixar maxim, story is king, is an absolute truth, but another, even less acknowledged one is, create what you can afford. I get people walking up to me all the time asking me to read a script they wrote or watch a project they shot, insisting they want to know truthfully what I thought of it. And this always puts me in a difficult position. Thanks to this show, I find myself as having a reputation, deserved or not, for recognizing what's good and what's bad and being honest, most would say brutally honest, about it. I suppose I have earned that reputation. I know there are lots of people who disagree with what I have to say, and that's fine with me. When you get down to where the cheese binds, it's only one man's opinion anyway. My opinion, whether I like it or not, seems to carry some weight, so when I look into the hopeful eyes of someone that asks my opinion of whatever project they hand me and demand the truth of what I thought, I feel, to put it very mildly, mixed emotions. I don't wish to dash the hopes of an aspiring filmmaker, but at the same time, I don't want to lie to them, so I will sit down and tell them exactly what I thought and how they could possibly improve their future output. 9 times out of 10, I can see them deflate like a balloon with a pinhole in it as I tell them what I thought, and it kills me. On the other hand, there are times when what they gave me to watch or read was so offensive to every instinct I have as both a filmmaker and a viewer that I cast sensitivity to the wind and tear what they did apart. I'm not young anymore, and I have a limited amount of time left on this vale of tears, so I'm kind of choosy about what I spend my time watching and reading. A famous author once said, when confronted by a hopeful author that insisted he hadn't read the entire manuscript he was given to critique, you don't have to eat an entire egg to know it's rotten. That is unfortunately true. I can tell in the first 5 minutes of a viewing whether or not I'm going to regret spending part of what little time I have left watching said project. Some may say that's unfair, but what the hell can I do about it? If it's unfair, take it to someone else and I won't utter a word of protest. And they'd probably give you a better opinion than I would anyway. I know there are a good number of filmmakers out there who dislike me intensely for what I've said about their various projects, but, what can I say? They wanted to know what I thought, and I told them the truth. Life goes on. Now, on to Invasion of the Star Creatures, which, in its original theatrical run, was in the B slot of a double bill with the ever-popular The Brain That Wouldn't Die. The original title was Monsters from Nicholson Mesa, which was a good-natured poke at James H. Nicholson, the co-founder of AIP. This film was written by Jonathan Hayes, star of Little Shop of Horrors. He played Seymour Krelboyne in that film and was quite good, in my opinion. It was originally written as a project for himself and AIP stalwart Dick Miller, but for some reason that plan didn't work out, and the main characters were played by 2 actors by the name of Bob Ball and Frankie Ray. They turned in workmanlike performances and managed to work in a few bits of business that aren't really all that funny, like Ball's impression of James Cagney. They've been called a low-rent version of Abbott and Costello, but I think that's only because they couldn't be compared to another team. Where Abbott and Costello were respectively a slick conman type and a patsy, both of these characters are gold-bricking idiots. I don't believe they ever did another movie together after this one. Director Bruno William Vesota was born on March 25, 1922 in Chicago, Illinois. He appeared in 105 films and TV shows, beginning with 1949's TV series They Stand Accused. Vesota began acting in junior high school and at 19 years of age attended the Hobart School of Acting in Chicago, making his stage directing debut with the production of Richard III and went on to direct all sorts of plays. He then did a stint in Lithuanian radio and then moved on to English language radio productions while still acting and directing on stage. He went into live television, directing some 2,000 programs and acting in a couple hundred as well. He moved to California in 1952 and began acting and directing movies in 1953. He appeared in a good number of B movies, including 1955's The Fast and the Furious, an awful movie I briefly considered showing before I came to my senses by watching it. The same year's Carnival Rock, and 1959's Attack of the Giant Leeches, among many others. He had an interesting touch as a director. Vesota himself appears in a cameo in this film as the passenger of a car Philbrick stops during his Commander Connor's daydream. Bruno Vesota died of a heart attack on September 24, 1976, at the age of 54. The humor in this movie runs the gamut from just plain stupid to crass. For example, the names of the female alien scientists are Puna and Tenga. They're never referred to in that particular order, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what the name's reference to. The two women who essay the roles, Dolores Reed and Gloria Victor, are apparently pretty tall. They're wearing 4-inch spike heels, but even so, they are a full head taller than both Frankie Ray and Bob Ball, who stood roughly 5'3". They're both very attractive, even if the belts they're wearing are a bit tight. Gloria Victor appeared in another movie with director Vesota, an abortion called Daddy-O's, starring Dick Contino. If you must seek it out, try to see the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version. You get an indication of the level of humor in this picture as soon as it starts. The opening title states, "R-I-Diculous presents an impossible movie." At the very least, they didn't fall back on the old "a miracle picture. If it's good, it's a miracle" joke. And that's about the most complimentary thing I could say about it. One thing anyone who watches this show will recognize is that a lot of it was shot in that old standby location for zero-budget movies, Bronson Canyon. There's also something I am compelled to mention due to that bane of mine and everyone else's life, political correctness. About 3/4 of the way into the movie, our heroes are overtaken and captured by Indians, and they are portrayed in the classic stereotypical manner, speaking in Uggs and smoking a peace pipe, along with the usual jokes about how they can't handle liquor and the rest of that stuff. If that's going to offend you, then don't watch the movie. If, however, you, like me, have a sense of humor about yourself and your heritage and can accept that stereotypes are, like it or not, based in fact, you should be okay. There's no biographical material available on any of the actors in this movie, and believe me, I've looked. I'm sorry there isn't, because in spite of the poor quality of this film, I'd really like to know more about the people who were in it. While researching this movie, I ran across this completely ridiculous essay on the legitimacy of this film as it pertains to UFOs and abductions. I hope this thing was a joke, because there is absolutely no way in hell a rational mind could take this movie as anything but the poor example of comedy it is. This guy presents this argument, from what I was able to gather by scanning the 4 pages of the article anyway, the rotten egg maxim holds true here, about how the movie is actually a cleverly disguised expose of the doings of ETs and abductions and probings and the odd behavior of the contactees. I read about 2 paragraphs of this nonsense before my BS detector buried itself in the red and beeped, and the beeping prevented me from going any further. Now, I do believe in UFOs. You know, I mean, the galaxy is way too big for us to be the only intelligent life occupying it, even if reading that essay made me question just how intelligent life on Earth really is. But when you become so desperate to prove a point that you fall back on a movie like Invasion of the Star Creatures to back you up, you're scraping the underside of the bottom of the barrel. To be fair, the author presents pro and con views in the essay, but it's all based on such a ridiculous premise that the very idea negates whatever point he's attempting to make. Although I'm sure my friends Darren and Steve would be able to make sense of it and probably agree with it to boot. Before I close, I'd like to thank my good friend Tim for taking a break from downloading porn and allowing me to use his internet to research this film, as mine is down at the moment. And now that I've mentioned you by name on TV, Tim, I'd like my car keys back. So right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy Invasion of the Star Creatures, right here on Cleveland Classic Cinema.